Hello gamers, Pet here. Welcome to Fight of the Primitives devlog number 4. I just checked devlog number 3 and man, I kind of... Well, I didn't forget, I was busy with other stuff. But so much has happened since then. I mean, I believe that the last video was me implementing the archer, where since then I kind of re-implemented all the units kind of again. And... right now I'm actually moving forward and I implemented some other stuff. I'm not sure if I'm let's see, let me actually check real fast if I showed in the last video the fact that I've done object pooling. Oh no, I have object pooling because I can see it over here. So yeah, we will not talk about that. But this is how the thing is looking right now. In week number 4 I did the yeah, there was a thing with the object pooling, like when the units were moving back into the pool, right? Their variables weren't reset because they weren't dying per se. They were just moving from one parent to another and being disabled. So I had to manually set up some variables to the default state. Maybe it's not the best idea on how I've done it, but at least it works. Then I changed on how the particles summon. Wirefighter AI, I've done it. Archer AI, I think it was still back then. And AI moved to the behavior tree. This took a long time actually, because with behavior tree it's totally different how you have to think. But I'm getting more of a grasp of the whole thing. As I said, I have re-implemented warrior, healer, you know, warrior fighter, they have the same AI, healer, archer, and right now I'm working on the spellcaster unit. They are now using the behavior designer. So behavior designer is actually the thing that decides what to do, and the bolt, the code, is a series of functions. So basically behavior designer is requesting functions to make shit happen. The thing in that it was again like a progress with the whole thing. Like I implemented the warrior, I've learned a lot from that. Then I have implemented the archer and I learned a lot about that. Then I implemented the healer and I've learned a lot about that, to a point where I'm thinking of re-implementing the AI yet again. But I'm not going to do that because I could do this forever. And the way I think I'm going to do it, I'm going to implement the spellcaster. Then I'm going to implement the summoner, because they themselves are going to require some AI and some new thinking yet again. So I have kind of like a weird cold. Then maybe I'm not yet going to do it. Maybe I'm going to start implementing some of the gameplay mechanics that I've added in the backlog, which are those like game manager timer. The summoner itself, it will also spawn, summon some rats, and the rats themselves are going to be some units. So yet again, I will implement AI from scratch yet again. So I want to implement a couple of AIs, because then before the final release of the game, I'm going to re-implement maybe yet again the fighter, the healer, the archer, with everything that I've learned from those, and then that will be it, right? Like I'm not going to touch the AI again, and then I'm going to focus on polishing and finishing the game, because you could be stuck in an infinite loop of you re-implementing stuff like forever. And the AI doesn't have to be perfect, and I don't want it to be perfect, but I want it to be a little bit more optimal than what it is right now. For example, the healer right now has a little bit of a bug, like because the way the cooldown has been made on when he heals, he can change targets and heal, and boof, the units are like on full health because he's ignoring the timer, the cooldown time. And I think I know how to do it properly now. So anyway, this was the point with the healer. So right now, as I've said, I'm in the week number 5. This is how the game looks right now. Nothing changed visually, but let me actually show you something cool. I changed the icons a little bit because I got bored, and I do have to make videos about those fantasy portraits. Those are not going to remain final in the game. I also added a reset button that, you know, I can spawn units, and when I press reset, they will be, that way I don't have to stop the game and then start the game yet again. So those two are fighting. As you can see, I can summon an archer, and the archer knows how to flee, as you can see. He will flee kind of forever because because of the delay of him shooting, he will never shoot, he will just flee forever. So one thing that I have to implement is a way to stop a unit from chasing that unit forever. You know, like if I chase that unit for more than 6 units, just go back on me seeking or something like that. Because, for example, I implemented fleeing from the healer, and basically the enemy warrior, you know, this guy was chasing the healer like forever, and it was the healer himself was dragging, the warrior himself was dragging a lot of other units after him. So there was a big block of units not doing anything, just chasing each other, you know. So, you know, stuff like that. I have also implemented, you know, this particle over here. It's an AoE spell. As you can see, if I hover over, you can see that spell over there and the cooldown that it has, and you know how it gets gradually down. The downside is that there is some kind of bug, not from me, I think, that even when the unit gets disabled, that cooldown still runs. So if I summon a healer again, I have a chance to summon a healer that doesn't have the cooldown reset, right? And I try to make something like on disable, set that variable at 0, but the code for the, let me actually show it to you. I think in order for me, oh, never mind, I can just go to the AoE spell heal over here, and you see there is this wait loop, and I think Jason is looking into it. I do have to check the messages to see if he's fixing it. Like you see, there is on disable, I'm breaking. He told me that I shouldn't do that because it's going to disable itself, but yet I made a video showcasing that this is not happening and the unit gets disabled, but the looping is still happening, right? So this code is still running when the unit is disabled. So maybe there is a bug, something. It's on the list, I believe, over here. So let me show you what else did I do, because I've done a lot. I should make these videos every sprint. So let me actually show you like how this is the logic for the healer, for example. As you can see, he's going in and he is going to wait until success. I don't want to make this a tutorial on the behavior trees. Maybe when I will learn them some more, I will make some proper tutorials. So I will not explain everything, but basically it's waiting to receive a message from bolts called summoned, because I don't want this tree to run while the unit is following my cursor, you know, when the unit is not being summoned yet. Those two are running simultaneously, so I'm synchronizing the variables every frame. Then I have this selector, and this is what I've learned, and it's very important. And again, you have to think of things differently that you would normally think, right? When I started with Playmaker, which is, you know, a finding state machine tool, it seemed natural. I'm here, I do this, then I receive an event, then I go to this state and I do this. When I switch to flow tools, you know, like flow canvas before using bolt, I had to think a little bit different, but I still got a grasp of it. And this is the same thing with behavior trees. It's from top to bottom, left to right. So when I implemented, I believe that I don't know, let's talk about the archer, for example. I was like, the archer first 6. If he finds an ally, then he checks the range or whatever, and he either pursues the unit. Well, the archer doesn't pursue, the archer just shoots directly. But let's say that you know, the warrior or the healer detects an ally or an enemy in his greater radius, right? But then he has to move to melee range to attack it. So he will go pursuing, and when he gets to melee range, he will start fighting. This was my logic. But no, it's supposed to be the other way around. So, for example, for the healer, when you are not fleeing, you are healing. When you are not healing, you are pursuing your ally so you can get to healing, right? When you are not pursuing, you are seeking. Seeking means going to the enemy castle, right? because when you are in those ranges, like you are on fleeing, this will fail because you are not fleeing. You are ally in range, this will fail because you have no ally in range. Then you go on, you know, I kind of made the ally in range together with the healing. So healing happens here, pursuing happens here, right? And then you go to seeking, because and then what you have to do is you have this abort type lower priority, which means that while something from the right, you know, from lower priority runs, you will still check for this. So for example, my sequences are still checking to see if they are going to receive a message from Bolt called ally in range, or they are still going to receive a message called enemy near. If they receive that message, then they will stop being in the seeking or being in the ally in range, and they will flee, for example, because that's the most important thing: fleeing, getting, staying alive, right? Right now the healer, as I said, is not fleeing anymore, but you know, the code is still there, but I just disconnected the fleeing, for example, which is this, you know, I just disconnected it. Just an overlap sphere that checks for the enemy. And man, so many things happen, and so many things got improved. Like the particles right now, this is all the objects that are in pool right now. You know, some particles are in the pool, and I'm casting them from the pool. I'm refilling the pool, and then I had to rethink some of the. Let's go to the AI archer, because the AI archer is doing something like find lowest health unit. Before it was something like find lowest health enemy. And then I was like, yeah, but the healer also needs to find the lowest health unit, only that it's an ally. Why can't I combine those together? And then when I did that, I was like, yeah, there was a problem with this whole thing, because it is like a for loop. I'm not sure if I talked about this. Maybe I talked when I did the archer, because it was kind of the same logic. You have an overlap sphere which is checking all your enemies or your allies. The first unit that comes is getting added to the pool, let's call it, and then the next unit is going to check to see if it has the lowest health than the unit already in the pool, and if it has, then that unit is going to get into the pool. Then it's checking the next unit, and then the next unit, and then the next unit, and just like that, you know which one is your lowest health unit, right? So, but the problem was that while this ran, since the 4 it's outside this unit, the lowest unit, this graph variable, was always remaining to being set to the last unit. And there was like a really weird bug when the enemy was detected. There was a bug with, like, for example, I made the AI so smart that when you are pursuing, if that unit gets out of your range, and this is something that didn't happen with the fighter and warrior before. Let me actually show you. This is the BD fighter warrior, as you can see. When you are pursuing, when I'm over here, I do have these 2 conditional evaluators. This is checking to see if the unit is active in the hierarchy, which means that it's checking to see if your unit is still alive. And then I also have this within distance. This is also checking if the unit is within distance. If it's not within distance, meaning that I might be chasing a unit that's fast and is getting out of my range. Right now the fighter and the warrior, they know how to get back on seeking or finding a new unit to attack, and it will not chase the same unit forever, right? So back on, I believe we were talking about the archer. I kind of forgot. I mean, kind of lost my thought. Anyway, so yeah, the unit was getting out of range, but this was still being set, right? The unit was still alive, but then this was still being, it remained set to the old one. And I was like, my guy was, you know, over here, and the current enemy or the current ally to heal was something over here. It's like, why? And it was because of this. So there was a little a weird thing to do, because I was outputting a unit. So I can't really clear a graph variable from outside the graph. I also can't clear it inside the graph because I have to output it. So I was like, how the hell am I going to do this? So I'm just doing a trigger custom event where I send the lowest unit, and after I send it, I'm setting the unit to null. And since I made this unit to be for the healer and for the archer, the the enemies, right? You need to trigger an event, but the events are different for the ally and for the archer. The archer event is set current enemy, but for the ally is set heal ally or something like that, right? So this is what I do. I set up an event that I trigger, and as you can see, the event is over here. And basically, set current enemy is just this event that's setting up the current enemy, and that's it, right? Again, maybe this is not the best approach. This is how the approach is right now. Things are working. They might break. It was a little bit of some annoying parts on how to do some things, but oh well. I also had to fix some things over here with the arrow, because the arrow was like being shot, but if your the target of the arrow was dying while the arrow was in mid-air and not dealing damage, he could not send its event to deal damage to something that's not active. So right now I also do some kind of check. I believe this is where I do the check. I forgot where I do the check, but basically I do a check to see if the unit is active in the hierarchy, and if it's not, I won't deal the damage. I believe this is the deal damage of the thingy. Anyway, I can show it to you if I go to misc arrow. You see this is like a weight and then deal damage, but I do check over here. Always check if the unit is active in the hierarchy, and that way if the unit is not, the arrow will kind of disappear, which is, I guess, is not really ideal, because the arrow can disappear mid-air, and I do want the arrow to arrive. I do want the arrow to go into the ground per se, but whatever, we will do that in polish phase if I see that there is a problem with that. So what else? I have sorry, I have this how to put it, this spell system, which I thought that it was like going to be like a proper spell system and whatnot, but then I was like, hey, the spell system is just going to be like this. I just have a reference. Let's drag and drop it, because Unity doesn't show the children of those thingies, and also it doesn't support nested prefabs. So right now the spell is this one. If I want someone else to use this spell, I have to duplicate it and then make this a child of this, for example. That's all because of nested prefabs. But as you can see, the spell itself, it's having its own independent logic, right? This is the spell icon, the range, the radius, the heal value, the cooldown, the elapsed cooldown, and then this is the logic for the spell. And the spell itself was, I'm not really sure if I showed it or not, but I actually had like in Paint. I think this is like the biggest graph that I've done, because since this is not, the AI has to figure it out where is the best choice to cast the AoE heal. So the healer has a long range of allies. Then what he does is he's casting an overlap sphere on each of the ally. Each of that overlap sphere is getting a value on how much it will heal. And then when he knows which one, because let me play. I don't have the image anymore. I've done it in Paint also. So let's say that this is the healer and this is the guy. This guy might be so injured that it's better to heal this guy, but maybe those two guys combined will be better to heal them. So it's better to cast the heal here, for example, right? So he's doing an overlap cast here, an overlap cast here, an overlap sphere here. He's getting the value of the amount that he will heal on each of those spheres, and then he's just going to cast it there. There are also a lot of other design decisions, like for example, this will only heal for 7, so he can heal this guy for 7, this guy from 7, because they are under the same sphere. So he will heal for a total of value of 14. But for example, my other guy, my solo guy, since he's solo, he will only get a heal of 7, which is the maximum. So which one is better? To heal for 7 or heal 2 units for 7 with total of 14? But what if those units, one of those units is missing only 3 health, the other one is missing 3 health, so it will be a total of 6. So there are a lot of things like that that you have to take into consideration, right? So this is how the spell system is working. It's just empty game object that has the spells, and if I add a new spell to this guy, let's go to spells. As you see, these are not used, they are just there for reference. And actually I should kind of delete this one, and I should make this new one the new one, because I improved this one a lot. So this one became obsolete. So yeah, it's a little bit, well, yeah, I can't use like a prefab inside another prefab, non-nested prefabs in Unity yet. Anyway, so if I just drag and drop the spell over here and I hit apply, and I hit play right now, here we also have the fireball spell. It is getting an error right now because I believe that the fireball spell is still not having the elapsed cooldown variable set, which I remember doing, but you know how it is. It seems that it didn't saved, so let's actually go from AoE heal. Let's hit copy. Let's go over here, elapsed cooldown. Let's set it to a float of 0, and since this is being used, it's like that. So right now I can just delete the spell, and this guy will not use the spell, but then again I have to apply the prefab again. So anyway, now what else have I done besides cleaning all those things? I created the reset game button, which is just a for loop. The UI also had to yeah, I also had to add another thing that's added into the pool. Right now the info panel, which is basically this thing, it's only one, and every time you mouse over a unit, this only one game object, the UI info panel, is getting populated with the unit name, the current health, the icon, and whatnot. So there was a problem with the implementation of the spells. So one thing, not all the units will have spells, but I still had to add an empty variable called spells, so it won't look for something that's null, that doesn't exist. Maybe there was a better way, but it was just easy to just add a null variable to other units that don't use spells. Anyway, maybe they will have spells in the future, who knows. And like a taunt, that would be like cool. That would be like a little bit interesting to... That would be like really interesting to implement. Thinking of it, to implement a taunt. Like, it's an overlap sphere that's going to get all your enemies, and you have to tell all your enemies that you are the one that has to be attacked. But at the same time, this has to override the decision of those units, because the units being independent, they might decide that there is another unit that's better to attack. So you kind of maybe have to reinforce or maybe cancel the unit ability to pick a new unit while you are under that taunt. That will be interesting, maybe later. So I also had to add to the object pool the spell icon itself, and then the spell icon itself knows, as you can see, it's over here, it's spells. But if you look under the prefabs UI, you have this spell icon UI, which is just having, you know, the spell icon UI name. So any unit that's getting into the object pool has to have a name. As you can see, this is the spell icon, which gets populated by the spell itself, and then the cooldown image, which is that ability to that's getting like down like that, which actually I was like, I wanted to make it like a clock, like that, like how it is in World of Warcraft, right? So when you use the ability, the clock, it's full. Let me see if I can maybe show it to you. Let's enable it. Right, so it's like this, and the cooldown image, if it's like full, it's like this, and then it's getting, I had to use lerp and then calculate something to know the exact decision. So if it starts from here, and depending the total damage, the total duration of the whole thing. This is why I need the elapsed cooldown, and it goes down, and now it's available to use again. I wanted to use it like a cloak, but then I was like, oh, I have to calculate the rotation, the quality, rules, whatever. But then Unity actually has this image type field, so you can set up the radial 360 fill origin, and then you can just do stuff like this. Can you do it like right? Let's do it on left. No. I need it top. Well, I'm not sure anyway. Oh, you also have clockwise. Never mind. So this is how it is in WoW. It starts. Well, I think it's the other way around. Yep, it's like this. It starts like this, and then I think it goes like this, and then poof, it's done. And I was like, oh, nice. Unity knows how to do that. I don't have to think of it myself. That's kind of cool. So yeah, I've done this. Let's put it top to bottom. Well, no, it was bottom to top. Yes, like this. Let's actually delete the whole thing. Actually, well, I don't have to save it. So yeah. So yeah, this is how the info panel is right now. What else have I done? There were a lot of things that I've done. I should have done this sooner, I guess. The spell system, yeah, again, I was thinking that I will need like a spell system to have a list, but the list of spells, as I've said, is at first I had, like for the healer, I had this variable of spells where I was adding into the dictionary or a list. I forgot what I used the spells, but then I was like, I don't need that. I actually just need a reference to the spell, and the spells themselves are the children of the spells game object, right? So I don't need a list and anything. I can just do a for each then, and that's how I loop through all the spells that the unit has, right? Because after I loop of all the spells, I have to set up the icons for the spells when you mouse over, and then get the cooldowns of each of the spells. So that was actually pretty cool, I guess. Then, as I've said, I set up the Spellcaster unit, and the Spellcaster unit right now is just moving from left to right. It's just seeking. It also has no logic. As you can see, this guy over here. This is the healer. This is the mage right now. He has the fireball, the Spellcaster. That's how it's called. It has the 21 health. The healer right now has 15, and the fighter right now has 30. So I'm not sure yet how to do it. The mage is also a little bit faster. Another thing that the mage will have, and this is what I'm supposed to do today, but I'm not sure if I will have to stream today anyway. But I'm recording this and then I have to leave a little bit later, so I'm not sure if I will have time to think of this. The auto attack for the healer, it's something like, let me actually show it to you. Well, I'm doing the fireball spell just so I get something to do. It's going to be a little bit the same like the healing spell. It will have to do like an overlap sphere for each of the enemies to see where it's the best to cast the fireball, and then he will it will be different than the healing spell, because the healing spell is just an AoE. The moment he decides, he instantly casts it and it's sealing everything there, while for the fireball spell I will need to have a projectile that's going to travel and only deal damage after it finished traveling. So it's a little bit different, but that's good because it's keeping me on the edge. And then what I will also have to do is the Spellcaster auto attack, and this is a screenshot from Rage of Mages. It's not really the one that I wanted, but I couldn't find like proper screenshots, and even that I had this game installed on my hard drive for the last 10 years, I don't have it right now. I'm not sure why. I tried to look, but I'm not sure why I don't have it, because I always had it. Prince of Persia, RPG Maker. If I search for it, some Dwarf Fortress stuff. I'm a little bit ashamed of myself that I don't have it. Yeah, really sad. Why don't I have it? Anyway, there was another auto attack. There was a staff. The game itself had multiple elements that you could deal damage of. So you could have the staff of earth that was just firing an earth projectile, a fireball, staff, and then you also had an air staff. And the first air staff was just firing one ray. It was like a ray like this, right? That's how it went. But then you could have a better ray that was attacking multiple units from the same staff. So it's something like this, even that this, I think this is an attack from the monsters and not from the staff of the player. I'm not sure, because they are not firing kind of from the same point. But usually this is what I want to do, just to challenge myself. From one point of the caster, I want to pick 3 enemies. I'm not sure yet what enemies, the lowest health, the closest ones, or whatever. I also have a variable of how many of them to attack, 3 max attackable enemies. Maybe I can improve this, level up the units. If I'm going to do a level up system, probably not. That would be like having to change a lot of systems. And he will just auto attack like zzz, zzz, zzz. I think it will be more interesting. And then do the fireball when it's not on cooldown. And I also want to do like a fire aura. So if enemies are coming in range of the spellcaster, they will get fire aura damage, right? Fire damage. Mostly for fun, to see how it goes. It will also give me a chance to use particles to make the game more flashy, because the attacks themselves will have to be flashy. The fire aura will also be flashy a little bit, just because it's an aura, right? So yeah, I think this will be like cool. And then later we see how we improve the units and whatnot. But I still have to have some logic in place, and the game right now doesn't have everything like logic in place, so I can get creative with units and other stuff like that. So yeah, I guess this is it for now. Let's make it full screen, even that you are not going to see the UI, because you know my monitor is having, it's 16.10, it's much higher, so you know I still see a little bit of this, what you don't see, so you won't see the UI, but doesn't matter right now. What the hell, I can cast stuff like this. Let's put, oops, but at least is getting attacked. Well, I can press the reset button and everything is being reset, and that's pretty cool. Let's also cast some archers. Let's put more healers. Let's also put you know, a spellcaster, even that he's not doing anything. See, this guy is trying to attack the healers, so they are kind of moving and then chasing. It's kind of like, it does seem like a brawl, doesn't it? But I do think that it's pretty cool. I don't know, I like how it looks so far, even that it's not polished and whatnot. Let's cast some more archers. Even the arrow itself, I will do it like to have like a trail after it, maybe like a laser trail. You know, look at how the archers are running. That's a little bit cool. I just can't wait to start implementing, you know, game mechanics, exactly game mechanics. Because you won't be able to summon everything in the middle. You will only be able to summon through to your castle, like from, for example, here and then here, and then you kind of have no idea what the units themselves are going to do. You are also going to have resources, so you know you will not be able to do stuff like this, you know. But the game is running pretty nice, even that right now I'm kind of recording and I haven't done, you know, proper tests, but I'm using object pooling, and maybe of course there are other things that can be improved. But I do want to check the garbage collection, which was, you know, the problem that I had before when I wasn't using object pooling. Look, you see how they are kind of dancing around because they are not really picking like the best target, maybe the one that's attacking you or the one that's near you and whatnot. Also, the units don't know exactly to attack. They don't know how to attack the... They don't know the difference between a range attack or a melee attack. So, for example, and also right now an archer is also running away from a healer. He's going to shoot and then he's going to run, I believe. Weird. He's supposed to run. You see, he's running now. It depends on how you spawn him. I don't know. So yeah, I will have to do some testings later. No errors, which is good. You know, in this test I've been having some problems. So anyway, this is it for this devlog. I'm going to try to do it again and maybe show you how I've dealt with the spellcaster, and then I will move into the summoner, and then maybe we will start doing some of those gameplay tools, and then to see how the game behaves with, you know, game mechanics there, like a score system, like a timer, and see how much score I can make, and then later implement maybe other units and whatnot. Depends. I know. I have to see. Yeah, I am still finding it a little bit enjoyable. Even that I'm a little bit stressed right now because I'm going through this process of finding a job, so have to prepare for that. Think of stuff. My mind is constantly being bugged on, and yeah, that's a bit nasty. So anyway, thank you guys for watching this. Hopefully this was interesting, entertaining for you. See you soon. Goodbye.